Good evening and welcome to the Tri-Cities Mountain Empire Weekly Digital Fusion Net. This is N4NT, name is Adam, net control station for this evening's net. This net meets each Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the Bristol Amateur Radio Club Fusion Room, 61243. The mirrors room, 40843, will serve as a backup should the Bristol Amateur Radio Club room be down at net time. Whenever possible, recordings of this net are uploaded to the Bristol Amateur Radio Club's YouTube page and are also broadcast live on the Bristol Amateur Radio Club's Facebook group page. This net emanates from the Tri-Cities area consisting of counties in northeast Tennessee and from the Mountain Empire of the southwestern portion of Virginia. All amateurs are welcome to check in. The purpose of this net is to promote good fellowship among amateur radio operators, encourage the use of the Fusion digital mode, improve communication skills, allow contacts outside the Tri-Cities and Mountain Empire area, and to share technical information and comments with the group. Before I announce the topic of tonight's net, which is something new we're going to go with here, I would like to mention that K9MI Mike, who was residing here in Bristol, Tennessee, had moved from Indiana, passed away on January the 3rd of this year. Mike had not had the opportunity to check into the Fusion nets. In fact, he and I were planning a trip to the Morristown Hamfest the next day, and he was going to purchase his first Fusion radio so he could participate with us. For next week's net, we will have a last call for Mike on that net. Okay, before we take check-ins tonight, I will pose tonight's question that we have, and the question is your call sign. What does it mean? And what I mean by that is, or what's up with your call? And what I mean by that is, if you have retained your original call throughout your tenure as an amateur operator, then what brought you to that decision, or for what reason? Or if you have a vanity call, why did you pick the particular call that you did? So that'll be the question for tonight. Comments are not limited to just the question. You can comment on anything you want to if you want to make any announcements or anything like that, but we're just throwing the question out there too as an interesting part of tonight's net. So with that being said, we'll now take check-ins from any stations. Please give your name, call, and location.
N4KZS Portable, Piney Flats, Tennessee.
Net control. N4NT, please check in and out. Alpha Echo 4 Bravo Tango, AE4BT, Curtis and Johnson City. My call was issued by the FCC, so I just kept it once I got the extra, since 91. Good evening to you and everyone on the net.
Net control, check in Kilo Mike 4 Juliet November Romeo, Chad, Johnson City. My call sign was issued by the FCC, and I'm going to keep it. I like it. No reason to change. Good seeing you this weekend at the Hamfest at N4NT.
Net control, please check in KL1CA Kilo Lima 1 Zulu Alpha. I can't stick around tonight, but I kept my call sign from when I lived in Alaska.
Net control, please check in KD4 CCO Dallas, Bristol.
Net control, please check in N4XRD, Ralph and Chilali.
K1KC, Chris, near Atlanta.
384 WMX, Ken and Lodi, Washington County, Virginia.
K4HBY, Robert Kingsport.
Okay, let me run through what I got here. And also, when you check in, as far as the question goes, if you're checking in and out and want to throw that information real quick, that's fine. If you're checking in with comments, then and just want to answer the question whenever we come around to you, that's fine too. All right, we got N4KZS, Gary, Piney Flats, Tennessee, checking in. AE4BT, Curtis in Johnson City, checking in and out. Thanks for checking in, Curtis. KM4JNR, Chad, got you checked in. KL1ZA, Jim in Bristol, Tennessee. KD4CCO, Dallas in Bristol, Virginia. N4XRP, out in Chilhowie, Virginia. And K1KC, Chris, outside of Atlanta, Georgia. KD4WMX, Ken in Quiet Lodi, Virginia, in Washington County. And K4HPY, Robert in Kingsport. All right, what we'll do, I'll go ahead and run through the list, but while I've got it here, I'll go ahead and just answer the question that posed out there too, just to give an idea of what we're doing. My current call, N4NT, is a vanity call. Basically, what I did, I applied for any 1x2 or 2x1 call that I could possibly get, because you know how competitive those are in the 4 area. But one thing I was adamant about is I wanted to keep a 4 call and not go with another call area in order to obtain a short call. So that's where that came from. I was fortunate to get a call that actually belonged to a local operator who was I've never met, but my understanding was an excellent CW operator. My original call was KD4ODW, and I hung on to that for quite a while. And a lot of people, I still have to mention that call to that I don't see very often to remind them of who I am. And between that, I had a call of AD4FS because I was a volunteer firefighter, so I went with my initials and then firefighter. So that's the story of my call. Next, we'll go to N4KZS. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, Adam. Yeah, I tried to check in to the FM net there, and I'm inside the house on handheld. I think it's on FM, but at my call, I got the N4KZS call whenever I took the technician test, and I've held on to it, I guess, for one main reason. It's probably not the best call on the last 3 letters combinations. I have problems with the S and so forth. But anyway, I made a sign. I made a illuminated sign that goes over my shack before that lights up when I transmit on HF. And it has my call and says on the air. And for that, probably that one reason, I didn't want to change the call. So that's where I'm at on that. Good evening, everyone checking on the net. And back to net control in 4KZS, Piney Flats, Tennessee.
Okay, Gary, thanks for checking in with us tonight and that information. And yeah, that's one of the things I had aimed for with this as well, is a little bit of education for those that might be tuning in or might listen to the recording area of how the call sign assignments work and that kind of thing. So it's definitely opening some insight into that. Let's see, up next we had AE4BT. He was in and out. He did mention that his call sign was issued by the SCC sequentially, so just a point of education here, I guess, for those that may not know. The A calls were actually, when they ran out of the short calls, the 1x2s and the 2x1s became, they designated those for extra class operators. And so if you got your extra and you've marked on the paper that you want to change your call sign, and that's the kind of call that you would get. All right, up next we have KM4JNR. Good evening, Chad.
Good evening, Adam. My call sign got sequentially through the FCC when I took my test in 2017. So that's how I got mine. And if I changed it now, I probably would never remember the new one. So we'll keep what we got. Again, it was good to see you at the Hamfest in Morristown on Saturday. KM4JNR.
Okay, Chad, thanks for checking in and appreciate the information. Yeah, I struggled with, when I changed my call the first time, before I got the N4NT, I kind of struggled with the decision to change the call because I remembered one of the things, when I studied for my ticket, I read the Jordan West book all the way, like the questions, the answers, the explanations, everything. I was just fascinated with the hobby, and one of the things he talked about was not changing his call because it reflected the time that he'd been in amateur radio. So that was kind of at the time I changed. I've been a ham for well over 10 years, and that KD4 call kind of, was reflective of the era that I got my license. But anyway, I ended up changing it, and I'm glad I've got the one I've got. Up next I have KL1ZA. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Adam, and the rest of the net. This is KL1ZA. Yeah, like I said, I was lived in Alaska for many years, and I got the KL1 when I was up there in 2006. And I was one of the last of the KL1s because they ran out of KL7s. So I'm keeping it the rest of my life. I'm never going to change it. I won't go to a 4. I'll stick with the KL. With that, guys, I'm going to say 7-3 and good night.
Okay, Jim. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate the information. Hopefully my audio is okay. I had to send my FT991 off today for warranty repair, and I'm actually using my HT, my FT70. And I found that if I don't hold the speaker mic right up to my mouth, if I actually keep it about a foot away from me, it sounds better. So that's what I'm doing. So if my audio gets low or anything, just let me know. And speaking of the KD4 calls, like I was issued when I was first licensed, there's a fellow that if you do the math on the alphabet, he's been licensed probably about a year longer or so longer than I was. KD4 CCO. Good evening, Dale.
Well, good evening, everybody on the net. I want to apologize for not getting the link up at the appropriate time. I didn't have the WiresX program loaded, and I thought I had plenty of time to get it loaded before the net started, but was I wrong? The net, or the network that runs on, WiresX runs on, was very, very slow tonight. It took almost 10 minutes for the Bristol club call to pop up on my screen before I could connect to it. So there is the reason why the folks on the 443 repeater missed the first few, well, probably the first few seconds, and maybe into a couple of minutes there. So anyway, like Adam was talking about, we got our call signs pretty close to the same time, maybe a year different. And when I got my call, I was it was technician, then a technician plus, and then a general, then an extra. And I just decided I was not going to change my call sign. I was going to keep what I had. And then I got to thinking about why. And I've got email addresses. I've got several things that point back to my call sign, like my email address is kd4cto@earthlink.net, and a few other that use the same thing, same format. So if I did that, I have to go in and change all those email addresses, and that just did not appeal to me. So I'm going to stick with what I've got. I kind of enjoy it anyway. It kind of smooth. TCO. So at least I can remember that. And I do know that phonetics, when somebody asks for the phonetic spelling of my call sign. So I got that down pat too. So anyway, Adam, sure appreciate you doing the net. And you sound a little bit bassy on that radio, but that's normal for that type of radio. But you're sounding good. So I'm going to turn it back to net control. Say 73 to everybody. This is KD4CCO.
Okay, Dallas, thanks for checking in and thanks for providing the link there. Yeah, sorry I didn't realize that it wasn't up there. I could have stalled for a minute or something. But that's the way technology goes sometimes. One of the issues with my old call, my original call, that KD4ODW, when I put that on a tag, Joe Citizen that didn't know anything about hams, and even a few hams would even look at it and was like, oh, KD40DW. I always hated having that O in the middle of my call. Now with yours, it makes sense because it's after two letters, and I doubt you have very many people mistake that, but yeah, mine being right next to the 4, it was always a mess when I tried to explain it to people. All right, up next we have N4XRD, Ralph in Chilhowie, Virginia. Good evening, Ralph.
Good evening, Adam and Net. This is N4XRD, Ralph in Chilhowie. Obviously, that's a vanity call sign. Started out in mid-March of 2018 with what I thought was going to be an okay call sign. It was KN4KQT, but found out it didn't transmit too well. People were always asking me to repeat it. Some people laughed at the KQT part. But anyway, it didn't take me too long. I decided I needed to start searching for a vanity call. So by May 8th, I think it was, I had N4XRD. And I picked that because I wanted to, like Adam, I wanted to retain the 4 in my call, and I just thought N sounded cool. I heard a lot of people talking with N4 call signs, and I thought that was a good sound. And then I was trying to get my initials, and my name's Ralph Davis. So I was trying to get RD, and I have no middle name. So in my pursuit of a call sign, I thought, well, I'll do the same thing that I've done for a bunch of computers. I'll put X in the center of my initials. But I could not get RXD, so I got XRD, and kind of like that better anyway. So that transmits pretty well, and rarely ever have anybody ask me for my call again. And it's also fun to say November 4 X-ray Romeo Delta back to net control.
Okay, Ralph. Yeah, that is pretty neat. I didn't realize that. As far as your call there, so that's pretty cool. That kind of reminds me of something too. If you ever watched the show Last Man Standing with Tim Allen, he's a ham operator. I haven't got to watch the show, but I did send off and get one of the QSL cards, and I found out the meaning. His call, and I can't remember the prefix, but it's 0 XTT. And he used to play a character named Tim Taylor, so the XTT is kind of a jab at the old character Tim Taylor. I thought that was pretty neat. I've actually looked that call up, and it comes back to some club, I think. But anyway, thanks for checking in, and appreciate the information. Up next, we have Chris, K1KC, in Conyers, Georgia. Good evening, Chris.
K1KC. Well, hello, Alan. I'm glad you mentioned that, what you did about the call signs a while ago, and I want you to repeat that to me later on when we get a chance. We're about to begin a series of the history of amateur radio call signs and frequency allotments, so that plays right into that. my original call was a KC4, and I kept that until I got my extra because I did not want to get complacent and satisfied with some other call sign. So I kept that until I did get my extra. And then when the vanity program opened up in '96, I filled out, you had a dream sheet you could fill out, and there was 25 choices, and I don't remember where in that 25 K1KC was, but it was somewhere in there. It wasn't number one, that's all I can say, so I've kept that. I paid a guy to do some research for me, so a guy that kind of does it semi-professionally or whatever. And he said that it had never been owned by anybody before, and I thought that was wild, especially when he said that those calls were originally assigned in the 40s. Well, I didn't have anything to support it one way or another. And just like within the last couple of days, I found another guy who's got a similar story. So perhaps it's true. Some K calls, not all the K calls, the K1x2s, that is, were issued apparently. And nobody seems to know why. And the FCC, of course, didn't keep records. So, you know, there's no official answer on that. But, yep, a lot of people, I had a guy get mad at me. Let me see. I better put in another quarter here. I had a guy at Hamfest upstate here ask me what part of New England I was from when I got the call sign, and I said Atlanta. And he says, no, where in New England did you live when you got the one call sign? I said, Atlanta. And he says, no, you're not listening to me. Where in New England? And I said, you're not listening to me. Atlanta. It's a vanity call sign. Well, the guy got jacked up at me, you know, so I just walked off. But that's my story, K1KC.
Okay, Chris, thanks for checking in, and yeah, definitely glad to hear that. That story, that's just one of those things that I'm always interested in and fascinated with, and I've studied the ins and outs of this call sign system and the vanities and that kind of thing. And that's one thing that that is possible with the vanity call sign system, as long as it matches the United States call sign sequence in your license class. You can actually apply for a call that's never been issued and get it as a vanity call. One instance I can think of here locally, he doesn't have a fusion radio to check in with us tonight, but Jim Jarvis, WD4JJ, it's my understanding those WD4 2x2 calls have never been issued. So that's a way to get a vanity call sign that never belonged to anybody. But I didn't realize that the 1x2 K1 calls had never been, some of them had never been issued. So that's pretty interesting. I know when you get the vanity call sign, sometimes, especially when you've had a call sign that's been used before, I know with my previous one and this one, I've had stuff pop up. People call me by the other person's name or something to that effect. Join a club or a group or something. I joined Ole Miss, and my old call sign, the guy that had it before was a member too, and everybody was calling me by his name. All right. Well, I know this one's not a vanity call sign. In fact, it's one of the KD4 calls. And just a little bit of history on the KD4 calls. That is the era when the FCC opened up the no-code technician license. Back in the day when you had to have Morse code to get any other class of license, but for no-code tech, that was about that time frame. So somewhere around 1990, 91, in that area when those KD4 calls were coming out. I got mine in 92. That was the boom in amateur radio at that time. They opened up the no-code license. So anyway, with that, I'll go to KD4 WMX. Good evening, Ken.
Well, good evening, Adam. This is KD4 WMX. Appreciate you picking up the net. And I'm like everybody else. I am an extra, but I got my KD4 WMX when I first got my license as a tech. And I just don't have any reason to change it. And I figure everybody knows me as 84W Mexican Quiet Lodi, so I just leave it that way. But I don't need no vanity call sign because I'd probably forget it anyway. But with that, I'll say 73 and turn it back to net control. And for NT, this is 84W Mexican.
Okay, Ken, thanks for checking in. And yeah, sometimes the call signs, they become such a part of your identity, and that's like your name. I know that sometimes I can remember folks. I see somebody out in public, and I'm like, oh, there's KD4WMX, and like I can't think of Ken or something. Yeah, just using that as an example. But anyway, we got one more here, and then we'll take another round of check-ins. This is N4NT with the Tri-Cities Mountain Empire Fusion Net. Forgive me if I accidentally called it Bristol. Just learning a new habit here. But up next, I know he's got a brand new vanity call, and maybe can give us an explanation as to the choice. K4HPY. Robert, good evening.
Good evening, Adam and Nanette. Yeah, my initial call when I first got my ticket was Kilo November 40 Oscar Uniform Yankee. And after I passed my general, I started researching on QRZ and looking at different call signs. And I found this one I really liked. It was Kilo 4 Hotel Papa Yankee. The HBY reminded me of Happy, so I like that. You know, I filled out the FCC questionnaire, and I put about 14 different call signs down there, but that was my number one. And they chose it to give it to me, so that's what I got. It was owned by a ham in Florida. I think it was Clearwater Beach, Florida, I believe, where his QTH was. I'm happy with it. Works really well on single sideband when I'm doing parks and stuff. And I guess that's about it for me. Back to you, Kilo 4 Hotel Papa Yankee.
Okay, Robert, thanks for checking in, and yeah, thanks for what you do there with the parks and everything. I'm gonna have to catch you on the air sometime and doing that and check in with you, work you at one of the parks sometime. I got into the summits there a while back and worked some of those, and that was pretty interesting. Well, that brings us to the bottom of the check-in list, so I'll get ready to get my typing fingers back to work here. Just a reminder, the question for the night is, what's up with your call? Why do you keep your original call, or what's the meaning of your vanity call? And a reminder, too, if you want to comment on anything else during your check-in, feel free to do so. Any station would like to check in, please call now.
Kilo, Foxtrot 4, Victor, Quebec Alpha, Jeff in Monroe, Georgia.
So, and I'll stay around for the comment there. Let me get a few more.
And the Alpha Bravo 8 Radio Lima, AB8RL, Tom in Scott Depot, West Virginia.
In R9Q, Chris, Redmond, Illinois.
W1 RTR, Michael in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good evening to the net. No traffic.
Okay, picked up a few there. KF4VQA, Jeff in Monroe, Georgia. KM4X, Gary in Marion, Virginia. AB8RL, Tom in Scott Depot, West Virginia. NR9Q in Illinois. And then W1RTR, Michael in Alabama. I believe you said no traffic. Any other stations like to check in?
KA1REB.
November Delta Zero Tango Sierra, no traffic.
Okay, we picked up Kilo Alpha 1 Romeo Echo Bravo KA1REB in Watauga, Tennessee, and ND0TS in Jamestown, North Dakota. Sorry, it took my screen a second there. Got you checked in with no traffic. Thanks for checking in tonight. Any other station? Okay, let's run the list here. See what interesting information we can pick up. We'll start with KF4VQA, Jeff. Good evening, Jeff.
Hey, good evening, Adam. Everybody on the net. Adam got a great net going tonight. I was listening from the beginning. I couldn't get in at first, but yeah, my call KF4VQA. I got it when I first got my ticket in '98. When I took the Tech no code, and then I took the Tech Plus, kept it, and then I thought maybe I might look into Vanity when I took General. Like, nah, I'll keep it because I had to think about it. But somebody earlier mentioned their email, the call sign on their email. And that's what mine is too. So some other things I would have to change. So and plus it shows, I guess, the error time frame for when I got it. So yeah, I just decided to keep it. It's kind of like I don't even have to think about it when I say it. It just rolls off the tip of my tongue. So that's my story. Thanks again, Adam. Great net, and I'll turn it back to net control. KF4VQA.
Okay, Jeff. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate the information tonight. Up next we have Gary, KM4X. I know your call's original, Gary. I remember when I first got my ticket and you had worked that test session, and I saw your call and Ron's and a few of those other short calls, and then I was disappointed to find out that the FCC had ran out of those, and back then there was no such thing as the vanity system, so there was no hope of getting one. But eventually that did change. But go ahead, Gary. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well, Adam. Yeah, and going back the distance I do is the reason for that being still the same as what I got in 1979. I went to Atlanta to visit my cousin, distant cousin, Lowry, who used to live in Abingdon, but now lived in Atlanta then and still does live in Atlanta. But we both had advanced class tickets and went downtown to Peachtree Street in Atlanta and took the test for the extra at the FCC office. And of course I came out with the X-ray, and Lowry came out KM4Z. We didn't get consecutive calls. Another station in Chattanooga was issued KM4Y. But we've talked to him, both of us have, and met him. So that's pretty neat. And going back to that time frame, and like I say, the 2x1s were getting close to the end, I guess, of coming out. But so we was pleased, Lowry and I both was, to stay with what the FCC dealt us. And I've never have considered any changes from that. So got a good turnout here this evening. Good to hear everybody from different other systems out there on the Fusion network. It's KM4X clear.
Okay, Gary, thanks for checking in. And yeah, I don't blame you. I'd hang on to that one. That's known you for years by that call sign, and it's just like your name, just a permanent part there. So that's a good one to hang on to. All right, up next we have my good friend Tom in Scott Depot, West Virginia. How are you doing this evening, Tom?
N4NT in the net to AB8RL. Good evening, Adam. Sure looks like your net's grown here in leaps and bounds for sure. Doing fine. Let's see. Sorry for the malfunction we had last week on the West Virginia net there. We had a room issue. We had a node issue. My wife came down when I was net control and said my son got hit in the eye with a soccer ball playing indoor soccer. And he's 38 years old, and it was serious. So I had to stop what I was doing and run to that. So it was not a great night, but we hope to rebound this Thursday here. In regards to your question there of the evening, my original call sign was WA3 KQA, Kings and Queens and Aces. I was originally from Pennsylvania, moved here to West Virginia in '85. Kept the call sign, the WA3, but I always felt like a foreigner. The 3 and an 8 land just didn't match. So around year 2000, when I upgraded to the Extra, I just put on the application for the FCC to reissue me a new call sign based on being in 8 land, and what I have is what they gave me, and I've just stuck with it. It was 5 characters, pretty easy to send on CW, and I just kept it, never changed it. So that's how that came about. So with that, we'll say 73s, and good evening to all. N4NT in the net, AB8RL.
Okay, Tom, thanks for checking in. And yeah, just a reminder, Tom has a net on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock on West Virginia Link, and we try to connect up here the 146.67 repeater in Bristol. We try to connect to that net each Thursday whenever possible. We might miss you this Thursday, just depends. Our regular club meeting is this Thursday night. So depending on how long it runs, because we have a test session afterwards. And so I may be running a little late, that kind of thing. But if I get out to the mobile in time, I'll connect the repeater up and folks can check in. Of course, if there's anyone that's not attending the club meeting and would like to check in, you're more than welcome to access the node and switch over. I don't have the room number handy. Tom, what is the number for your Wires X room?
Yeah, that number is 46488. 46488.
Okay, good deal. Thank you for the information. And or if you forget the number and you look it up by name, it's WV Link, West Virginia Link, and you can connect the repeater. One of the tricks that I do sometimes if I'm out mobile and I'm trying to figure out a room that I want to link up to, I'll access the node through the repeater, and I'll just type in what I'm looking for into Google. A lot of times it'll pop up. As much as I check into Yard Dog, sometimes I forget the number, and I'll hit it on Google or something. If I'm on my HT, but my mobile radio, I've got it stored. All right, up next we have NR9Q, Chris in Illinois. Good evening, Chris.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening to everybody on the net. NR9Q Chris here in Minden, Illinois. We're here by the as far west as you can get in Illinois. And anyway, I guess comment on the call sign. I first got introduced to amateur radio when I was on a deployment back in 2008, 2009. So I came home and after during a 2-week leave home from the deployment, took the test, and I got back overseas, found out I passed, got all the license, and the individual that had showed me this, his name was Jack, KR9Q. So fast forward a couple years after getting home, getting active, getting operating, and upgrading to an extra class license, I was looking around at call signs because I didn't like the one that got dished out, and seen NR9Q, and I'm like, I got to have that. So I called my buddy up,
was like, hey, you cool with this? I'm like, it's pretty much close to yours. But he goes, man, get that call sign. I'm like, I'm going to, I hope. So he's KR9Q and I'm NR9Q, so it kind of worked out that way. I kept it that way since 2010 now. So thanks a lot, and good evening, everybody. Back to net.
Okay, Chris, thanks for checking in, and appreciate you bringing Illinois to the net there and running our state count up. We kind of keep track of that on the net as well. Yeah, interesting story. You were able to work that out. I know I looked at a few vanity calls that closely resembled some of my Helmers and went for them and couldn't get them. It just seems like the process is so competitive, especially in the 4-call area for those short calls. My call I have now, N4NT, I would love to have been able to get TN for Tennessee, but that one was taken. But I was one of 35 people that applied for this call, and this ended up being the one that I got. And I applied for other calls where it was me and 5 other people, and I lost out. So I was truly amazed when I finally won the draw there. All right, W1RTR, had you checked in with no traffic, so we'll go to KA1REB. Richard, good evening, Richard.
Well, hi, yeah, this is KA1REB. Call me Woody. This is my first time on here. I've been CW all my years doing that. I'm originally from Maine, and I got that call sign when I was a novice and just hung on to it all these years. And they used to say up there to me, if you ever move down south, you'll fit right in, REB. So there I am. So I live over here in Watauga, Tennessee, and I've had this radio here for about 2 years, 3 years now, and I've just discovered this fusion and all this, so I hope I'm sounding all right, I'm doing it right, but I'm just happy to meet you all, and it's just a pleasure. So 7-3, this is KA1REB.
Okay, Woody, thanks for checking in, and yeah, we run a net logger session during the net, and so what I can do is go in there and under the names of everybody, and I can change it to what you want to be called. So the next time you check in, when I type in your call sign, it'll pop up that way, and we'll call you Woody. I know my first name's not actually Adam. I go by my middle name, so that's why mine's popping up like that now because I changed it. So we definitely want to call you what you want to be called. Let's see. Up next we had ND0TS in North Dakota checked in with no traffic, so we'll go ahead. That brings us to the bottom of the check-in list, and we'll open it up. Are there any other stations that would like to check in with us tonight?
K8LIN, Brad in Tequila, Georgia. Good evening.
Okay, we've got K8LIN, Brad, in Tequila, Georgia. Got you checked in. Are there any other stations? Okay, we'll go back to Brad for some comments. If you're just joining us, Brad, we had a question posed at the beginning of the night. That's what's up with your call? And basically, what we're asking is if that's your original call sign, why did you decide to keep it? Or if it's a vanity, what's the meaning of it? Why did you pick that particular call sign? And then, of course, anything else you'd like to comment on, you're more than welcome to do so. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, well, mine is a vanity call sign. I got my first call in 1988, and about 7 years ago, I changed it to K8LIN for my firstborn granddaughter, whose name is Caitlin, and so that's the story on that. And none of my other grandkids now have names that I could get a call sign for. So I felt fortunate with that.
Okay, Brad. Well, thanks for checking in. And yeah, that's an interesting story. I don't know that I know of anyone else with a vanity call that came by the call sign for in that way. So that's pretty cool. I never thought about that. But thanks for checking in tonight. Are there any other stations that would like to check in before we close?
I've got some additional comments, Adam.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Well, you know, maybe one night you ought to ask, how many people do you know by their call sign and don't even know their name or their real name? That might be a good question to ask. I was able to go back and find that other guy. It wasn't just K1s that did not all get issued in the 40s. This guy was a K5, so I don't know how extensive it was, but I was able to look him up there. The no codes actually reached into the KC4s in the 4 call area. Some very late KC4 call signs were no codes. And for a brief period of time, I also had AC26 UQ, AC96 UQ, and AC400 UQ as special authorizations that were just temporary. And which was, I didn't use it very much, but I got a few of them out like that. So back to net control, K1KC.
Okay, Chris, thanks for the information. And yeah, that was something I was curious about too, because I knew the FCC couldn't time it exactly to where the first KD4 call was a no code. I always wondered if there was a few that had to take the code that had KD4 calls, or if some of the KC4s got in on the no code. So that answers that question. Appreciate that. And while I've got it here too, if you do have any questions that you would like to have featured on the net, there's a lot of pressure to come up with 52 questions over a 12-month period. So I welcome any questions that you would like to put forward, amateur radio related, whether they're technical or about call signs or what have you. Just send those to my email. If you'll look on the website for the net, which is qsl.net/TCME for Tri-Cities Mountain Empire. My email address is at the bottom of most of the pages on there, and you can shoot me an email, and we'll definitely do our best to feature your question on the air. Probably be able to, because I doubt I'll get flooded with hundreds or anything. So by all means, send me some material, and we will use it. I think that has made for an interesting portion of the net, and it's also served to be educational. I do have a question, if anybody can answer it, regarding vanity call signs. I could probably look it up on the internet, but I've got so many screens going right now I don't want to do that. Wasn't there a recent change in the vanity call sign system now that you have to stay within your call area? Like if you're in the 4 area now, you have to do a 4 call or what have you. Of course, I know the ones that are already issued are there, but is that a rule within the vanity system now? Does anyone know?
This is KD4 WMX.
I think I started to double with a couple of people there. I saw KD4 WMX come up.
Yeah, Adam. I don't think that you have to stay with your territory for numbers.
because we have a guy here in Abington that's a K3. I think it's K3SA. I think it's his call sign. And of course, he lives right over the hill from me, so he'd be a K4. But so I don't think it's a rule that you have to stay in your own territory.
Okay, and yeah, come to think of it, there's another guy that just got one not too long ago, and it's a WJ1 call. So maybe that was something I saw on a forum that somebody was wanting to propose or something like that. But I mean, with the modern conveniences that we have now and stuff, that system is not as I don't know, prevalent or what have you as far as the information that it gives. So, all right. Let me just see if there's anybody else just to make sure. Anyone else that would like to check in before we close? Okay, hearing none, just a quick reminder again, check us out on YouTube and Facebook. We'll upload this net to the Bristol Amateur Radio Club's YouTube page, and it's being broadcast live on Facebook in the Bristol Amateur Radio Club's group page, so you'll be able to access it there. I always started a couple minutes early the recording, so you can advance past that. And check out our website for the net at qsl.net/TCME for Tri-Cities Mountain Empire. We do actually add and update information on a regular basis, especially on that front page. All right, we had a total number of 18 check-ins. We had 7 states represented. The USA was the only country tonight, and we'd like to thank each person for taking time to check into the net. This is N4NT, closing the Tri-Cities Mountain Empire, the first ever Tri-Cities Mountain Empire Fusion net at 10:22 p.m., 7-3, good night.
And